Enjoy your Barnes and Noble journey?
I did, very much so. I like that.
And the music is phenomenal.
I've never come to anything. It's just so nice to walk in and see
Yeah, you gotta watch out for that.
Okay, folks, we're going to start our meeting. Vicki? Where's Vicki? Oh, no. Vicki, can we do roll call, please?
Sean Barnes.
Here.
Montana. Here. Michael Ward.
Here.
Jessica Lyon. Here. Tom Mateo.
Here.
Mike Burbett.
Here.
Casey Williams.
Here.
Yeah, if everyone can stand, and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin on a topic that I think probably a lot of people are here this evening for. After a great deal of feedback from residents, discussions with individuals from the city board, the park district board, fellow school board members. Last week I called a meeting between myself, Dr. Briscoe, board member Tracy Williams, Cindy Kapek from the Cal Park District Executive Director, their board president, Joan Burks Hanson, Mayor Polson, City Manager Bernacki, and Alderman Tarazinski. After our discussions, both the Park District reps and those from us representing District 428 agreed to go back to our respective boards and see if there's consensus from each of our boards that would allow us to begin negotiations, that would allow the Park District to try to negotiate the land purchase on First and Fairview. At the meeting that we had excellent dialogue and a spirit to make this happen. I think there was a general consensus from all the parties involved is that the school district should not own the land, but let's try to find out a solution to make it work for the Park District. In regards to the other item that's listed here, we'll spend more time talking about this later, but in regards to the property appraisal, which is 7A on your agenda. As everyone understands, there was and is a lot of moving parts to the land swap. In future negotiations with the DeKalb Park District, we do believe it is imperative, though, that we have that information for a potential appraisal of some of the land around the new high school facility. We will discuss the idea of whether or not we should have an appraisal done at this time. It's being brought forth tonight as a potential action, and we'll see how the board responds to that. As far as the update, if there are any negotiations that have changed with Shodine, there are none. We made an initial packet, an agreement, and we have received something back, but there are a lot of clauses and so forth that have been changed, so those negotiations have not been completed at this time. So, with that, we'll move on to the next portions of our meeting. The first thing is acceptance of gifts and donations. Yeah, we're in the public participation recognition. The first item is it's been recommended that the Board of Education accept with gratitude the donation of a new PA system and a new piano keyboard with a bench from Nestle Corporation to Tyler Elementary. Tyler School had partnered with Nestle through the Junior Achievement Program for the past 2 years.
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our public comments. We have several cards that have been turned in. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board should complete the request card, which has been done already. Prior to the meeting, this section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and criticism of individuals is not in order. The first card that I have received is from a lady named Melissa Garman from Page Boulevard. Melissa?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Melissa Garman. I live in DeKalb and have for over 30 years. I came here from Chicago to study political science and history. Among the many things I learned in my studies and in life is that Chicago has one of the finest park systems in the world. Park development in Chicago is a model to cities large and small. When I first heard of the scheme to develop the park on the south side of DeKalb, frankly, I was stunned and appalled. How could anyone, let alone a reported group of sane elected individuals, want to take a large park and sell it to a developer? To say that Kiwanis Park is valuable to all who use it, live near it, or live in the area is an understatement. All anyone has to do is drive by to see all of the activities that take place there. That park offers so much more than that, however. It is a showpiece for the city, and especially for all who enter from the south side. Like most or all of you, I am a homeowner in the city of DeKalb. I have watched the value of my property cut by 1/3 to 1/2 since the beginning of the recession. There are probably hundreds of homes and other vacant and occupied properties for sale at grossly deflated prices. To bring in more development now or in the near future is not only doing a disservice to us who own properties, but actually probably to you as well. Ongoing development at this point will simply keep all of our property values down well below the prices we originally paid for them. Please take a lesson from the great Daniel Burnham and Frederick Olmsted, who developed many of the beautiful parks in Chicago. They and the civic leaders there would not, and are short of militant about developing parks for anything other than their original intent. Green space is perhaps the most valuable resource the city has to offer its current and future inhabitants. Trading any green space away for any reason is nothing short of a horrible idea. Members of the school board, please let me remind you that you are our elected officials, and it is your responsibility to represent the citizens of the school district. I can't imagine that there are too many district citizens who wish to reduce green space and keep the values of their properties deflated. I strongly urge you to find a different funding mechanism to replace the money you are hoping to receive from Shodin or any other developer and leave Kiwanis Park alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine Gardner, please.
Hi, my name is Christine Gardner, and I moved to DeKalb in 2006, and I live in one of the townhouses off of Manning Drive. One of the things that made living in a townhouse was very small, limited, yard space a little more bearable to me was being able to walk across the street to Kiwanis Park. I have 2 big dogs. I walk over there every day. It is breathtakingly beautiful at the park. I've seen owls every year. We watch the baby owls in the nest grow. I've seen deer. I've seen glimpses of a fox over there. There's a little community of dog walkers. I love hearing the sound of the kids playing soccer on Saturday morning. It is absolutely precious to me, and it would break my heart for us to lose that spot in our community. During the last couple of weeks as I've been trying to ramp up and understand what's going on, we've formed a little committee, we meet, we talk, I've done some research online. I found some minutes that were prepared by the DeKalb Park District, and those were from July of this year. And there were some statements made in the minutes that one of the reasons why DeKalb Park District is able to provide green space the way that it does for our community is utilizing the land that the school district and IU own. Obviously, that's Kiwanis Park. That's what they're referring to. And to lose Kiwanis Park would seriously cripple the Park District's ability to provide that green space for DeKalb residents. Look at Sycamore. Sycamore has, even though it's less than half the size of DeKalb, it has that 99-acre sports complex that has, that's where their AYSO plays, their softball teams play there. It is a gem in their community, and it's owned by the Park District, and as a result, it's protected. And Kiwanis Park, until it's owned by the Park District, will not be protected. And it pains me to say this, but it appears to me, and maybe my understanding is off, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but when I'm trying to figure out how this all came to be and how this all came to pass. And one of my neighbors actually made a statement, because he understands the money in this deal much better than I do. But he made a statement that the community really stepped up to the plate, and we passed this referendum, $110 million that we trusted to the school district to make good decisions for our kids and our community in terms of what we were providing for them. And you are not making a good decision for the community if you choose to trade Kiwanis Park. We want to maintain our green space. It is absolutely beautiful. It is a precious gem on the south side of the city. If it is gone, where will we be in 5 years? We'll be here.
I'm going to ask you, please wrap up, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be talking about another referendum that will be very costly to the taxpayers, to provide other green space and to provide another spot for them. This isn't a farm field that we're talking about developing. It's a park, and it's precious to all of us. And I just ask that you keep that in mind as you make your decisions.
Thank you. Jan Jacobson?
Hi. I'm happy to hear your announcement this evening about the various organizations getting together. That's exactly what we were asking of all of the boards and across the community. So I'm changing my direction as to what I really wanted to say this evening, because I think that's what we were asking. The only thing I wonder, as you mentioned, having like Tom Tarazinski from the city and members of the board, would it be appropriate for discussions that maybe members of the community might be able to sit on some of these discussions as well, as a possibility? Just food for thought. I just think that that's really what we were asking of everyone, was to just take up conversations, and since that is what you've decided to do at this point, I rescind saying anything further.
Any decision that is made with the group will be brought before a public body.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Lori Erdman?
Hi, my name is Lori Erdman, and I live in the Heritage Ridge subdivision. I've looked at the land swap issue from every angle that I can think of to figure out why this deal is so disturbing to so many of us on so many levels. Obviously, the loss of attractive, well-cultivated, and maintained soccer fields that serve more than 750 young players in DeKalb and the surrounding communities is a key problem. However, Kiwanis Park, as you've already heard, is used for so much more than soccer, and many of us no longer have young athletes in our homes, or never did. Still, we regularly walk or ride the park's new bike path, admire its newly transplanted trees, walk our dogs in the spacious fields, picnic in its shelter house in the summer, cross-country ski across its wide open spaces in the winter, and appreciate the beauty of its woodlands through all 4 seasons. Losing what may be DeKalb's largest and most utilized park will impact citizens throughout the community for generations to come. My worst fear is that this beautiful green space will be destroyed now for future development later, and will lie fallow for years before that development happens, if it happens, and that should be of great concern to us all. As somebody who lives near Kiwanis Park, I've also paid close attention to commentary that suggests that this is a NIMBY or a not in my backyard issue. And actually that's a valid point. This is the easiest angle of the land swap deal for everyone to understand. All of us have a natural instinct to protect our property from outside threats. For the board members who are Northsiders, I'm sure there was some anxiety when the new high school was built near or adjacent to your property. So I trust that you understand the desire that Southsiders have to protect our homes and our neighborhoods, as well as our green space. Excuse me. Looking at this situation from the taxpayer's point of view will go a long way toward resolving this conflict, and it sounds as if you are doing that. When there is an urgent need for growth in our school district, we taxpayers have shown that we will support the school district. The impressive new high school is evidence of that. And though our children graduated long ago from DeKalb schools, my husband and I beamed with pride when we opened the new high school building a year and a half ago. We were equally impressed that the district, thanks to a state grant, had completed the project but still had $21 million in reserve. Which brings me to my final point, doing the right thing. As a 35-year teaching veteran, I know the state continues to put school boards and districts in terrible financial quandaries. I know that being a board member is often a very thankless job, long hours without compensation, and the fate of thousands of children in your hands each day. Yet you do represent taxpayers, and you're entrusted with our money to be receptive to our wishes and to make good decisions in our children's interests. With this land swap issue, you now have the chance to have back those who, not so long ago, backed you when you needed it. Please continue to do the right thing now and help save our community's precious green space.
Thank you. Jack Bennett, please.
Congratulate you on having gotten together with the park board and others to consider this matter of dealing with the park. I think it's been close to 20 years ago, maybe a little more than that, you were able to cooperate with the park board on building the swimming pool down at what used to be the high school. And that has worked out very well with the community. I don't play soccer. I'm really not interested in it, but I do get by the area very commonly, and I see how many people do use it, not only in the summertime, but in the wintertime. I see people out there with skis and toboggans and sleds, kids playing in the snow. It's a valuable adjunct to the now junior high school that you have there. I think when the board made the original decisions that led to the contract with Shodine that appears to be driving the effort to give it to Shodine now, or to trade it to Shodine, you were given some very bad advice to act on, or your predecessors were. But I think the fact that you can cooperate with the Park District, that it's largely the same taxpayers that are paying the bill either way, the school district should not just look at their own budget, but look at all of the community's budget and preserve this park for the benefit of all people who use it. I live close to Hopkins Park, and I have the privilege of enjoying that every evening when I run over to the park and through it and back. I think people deserve that kind of privilege at this end also. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Jack. Betsy Chronopoulos.
If we have something to give you, do I give it to you?
That'd be fine. I'll distribute it to everybody.
This is a copy. And this is
Petitions.
as a copy of our petition, 647 to date and counting. We're tired, but that's okay. Some of what you're going to hear, you've heard already, but as a teacher of almost 40 years, I learned long ago, you attest to this, that it's good to reinforce. Okay? Summary and observations, suggestions, and a plea. This is part of the summary. High school built, previous study states the facility is good for well into the future. Poses the question of why we need an expansion, and exactly how is the 31 acres going to be used by the school district. Then there's the agreement between MACOM and the school district for the land purchase with approximately $1 million loan with $42,000 per year interest rate. The land swap idea, proposed when and by whom. And it sounds as if hopefully that might be a moot point, but nevertheless, this is some of the questions. Neither the agreement nor the land swap should have been discussed, and this is my opinion, in closed session. Very thin ice using land acquisition as a reason. The fiscal implications of this agreement and land swap should have been brought forth to the public and advisory committees of the school board. The next area, public outcry about prospect of losing Kiwanis Park, a much-used facility for the community. This has prompted the entities to begin communicating and has brought forth many questions which need to be answered. I'm delighted to hear that news and hope that continues. Never underestimate the power of the public. Listen to ideas that have come forth. Answer the questions which have been asked. It's both good and bad what this conflict has brought forth, or brought to light. Good, because through conflict often comes resolution, and it has caused many to consider staying more informed in the future. Bad, because the flow of information has been slow in coming and shows a lack of transparency. Why should citizens have to fight so hard for the obvious? Yet fight we will. It's the right thing to do. The city, school district, and park district should start discussions to find a resolution that will benefit the entire community. Good idea. Great idea. Since all the entities have served pretty much the same taxpayer, should have been done to begin with and should continue to be done. And each entity has the knowledge base and staff talent that can be used to come up with a creative solution. And finally, 3 solutions and 1 plea. Please continue to actively communicate with each other, school district, park district, city. Not just staff, but elected officials, and I can really sympathize with this. Too often elected officials are new, and there's a learning curve for them to catch up on facts, protocol, etc. They're victims of information overload, and it's difficult to sort and prioritize, easy to feel intimidated. Staff is often brought on board for short periods of time, and there's a learning curve there as well, especially with becoming familiar with the history and dynamics of the community. New ideas, fresh talent is one thing. Ignoring what's happened in the past can be dangerous and costly, as it often results in reinventing the wheel.
Teacher can office, we're down to 1 minute.
Oh, I can do it. I can do it.
I'm treating everyone the same.
It's also, that's the way it should be. It's also a matter of common sense. Open ears makes for open minds, resulting in well thought out decisions. Specific suggestion, perhaps the 21 million bonus grant monies could be used to pay off the Shodine agreement. The assumption is that the cost would be less than $1 million since it would be paid off early. Land swap issue solved. 3, during these discussions with the other entities, research possible resources to settle Kiwanis Park ownership. Working together is a show of unity, a collective vision for the community. It's a hard thing to turn down when applying for grants. And finally, the public, this is the plea. Hold a public forum as you see fit to answer the many questions posed by the public. Clear the air. Then you can go about your job of overseeing the education of our children, and it's clear that that's what you want to do. Thank you.
Allison Breitmeyer, class sizes and flex
DeKalb High
period.
School, yep, special ed teacher. I'm coming as a parent of 3 kids, grades 2nd at Brooks, 6th at Rosette, and 9th at the high school. And I just wanted to come to voice my concerns regarding our current class sizes in our district. My 2 younger children are not getting the same quality of education as my oldest did during their 1st through 5th grade experiences. Higher class sizes are preventing teachers from being able to build that personal relationship with their students in order to promote academic success. In my experience, I've noticed that when students feel connection with their teachers, behavioral concerns decrease and academic success increases. My own children feel that not as much learning takes place in larger classes due to behavioral concerns or issues, and not all of their questions can be answered on a regular basis. This causes me great sadness as a parent and as a teacher in our district. As a teacher, it's a daily struggle trying to meet the needs of all students and help them to move up to the next level academically. Prior to having so many students in each class, we teachers were able to make a difference from a C-level student by moving them up to B level, or a B level student up to that A level, and we're not seeing that as often or currently. In conclusion, I'm thankful that I've been able to meet with students during the flex support that we have at the high school, and that flex period has been the most important factor in the success of the freshman experience. Those of us that are working in this area feel that this intervention / support wasn't given enough time for the true benefits to be seen. We need time for the climate of the school to change. If you look at the data that I think is being presented tonight, it shows that the sophomore level classes or the students are actually using flex just as much as the freshmen, the current freshmen, not so much the upper level kids that haven't had that exposure. I have a lot of key reasons to keep flex. I'll come back to that if I can. But if you can in the future, just look to the needs of our kids and those class sizes, how it impacts learning from the teacher's perspective, as well as the parent and the student. I just feel that my kids have a face and a voice, and they're not heard. And I just don't feel as a teacher that I make that connection with kids that I used to be able to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Becky Maskell, classroom space.
Good evening. I am here tonight to address concerns that I have regarding the possible decision to move the administration offices to the second floor at Huntley Middle School. While I realize that no final decisions have been made and that we don't even know for sure which grade configuration we will be using, it's my goal to be proactive and to share the data that I've collected before a decision is made and it's too late to bring that information forward. As we are all aware, the students and staff in DeKalb have had to do more than their fair share of moving over the past decade. Therefore, whatever plan the district decides to adopt should be sufficient and not require any additional moving, remodeling, rearranging, or redistricting for many, many years. Although it may seem that there is a lot of extra unused space at Huntley Middle School, that's not really the case. I have some maps that I'm going to provide for you, and you'll notice that after moving the Huntley Middle School offices to the main floor, relocating the technology department to Huntley Middle School, and moving a portion of buildings and grounds to Huntley, that has reduced the number of classroom space to 46. At this time, we would be able to use the classroom space that is not currently being used to expand. However, if the administration offices are moved into that space, we will have little or no opportunity for providing additional space when it is needed. I've included a chart with the projected 7th and 8th grade enrollment through 2020 based on information that I took from the IIRC website. I've calculated the student population for each year, as well as the number of classrooms that are needed to accommodate those students in their core classes. I looked at what they would need for science, social studies, math, and language arts. While I did calculate the classroom space needed based on 35 students per class, I'm hopeful that the district will be able to reduce class size in the near future. Therefore, as a way to plan for future needs, I also calculated the number of classrooms needed to teach the core classes based on 25 students per class. While it is true that if we do not move the Ed Center, to the second floor at Huntley, we will have some extra space that's not being used for the first year. However, not filling every single classroom the first year will provide room to reduce class size and grow over the next several years without needing to once again relocate the Ed Center, put on an addition, or pack the students into every available corner and closet.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up, please.
Oh, okay. Well, I will provide the information for you. You can look it over. I know it's been stated that moving the Ed Center will provide long-term savings to the district. It's been reported that if the administration offices are moved, the district would not be paying for energy costs, repairs, upkeep, plowing, custodial staff, etc. I do agree that the district would save a little money on snow plowing, but I don't agree that it would save any money on energy costs, repairs and upkeep, custodial staff, etc. Those costs will simply be moved from the current location to a different location. Rather than spending the money to relocate the Ed Center to Huntley, I believe the district should focus on using our valuable financial resources to bring parity among all the schools and improve the area in which our students are learning. Please put our children first and provide for their educational needs before spending money to relocate the administration offices.
Becky, I would just have one request.
Yes.
There's a finance and facilities meeting
I will be-
who are making recommendations
Correct.
on that.
Correct.
I would ask that you address that with as well.
I plan to do that tomorrow.
Because
Thank
I
you
believe
very
you're on
much.
that committee, correct?
I'm not on the committee, but I do go to the
Okay,
meeting.
so please do that.
That is my
Thank you.
intent. I will do that tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to just take a step backwards. I was looking at the audience when I was speaking earlier, but I do want to make sure we have consensus of the board to move into negotiations with the park district. Is there consensus from the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I want to make sure that was efficient. All right, we next move into a presentation that we have this evening. It's on the DeKalb High School bell schedule. Principal Roper, floor is yours.
I don't know, do you have the PowerPoint on your iPads?
Yes.
I do,
Yeah.
but we don't have it available for public presentation. It's, this is an informational item tonight. I don't know if we can still get it up there or not.
medium.
Oh, well, we're working on that. Cohen, I know you're, go ahead. Mike? What I'd like to do is are there board committee reports while they're working on that? Would anyone like to make? Anybody have any updates?
Cricket Council did not meet in November, so there's
Okay.
nothing.
There's a Facilities Finance Committee meeting tomorrow night here at 6:30. We'll be addressing the very sorts of things that Becky was talking about, and they are getting close to some final recommendations.
Because I think the target date we put out there was around the first of the year. So
That's
we'll
correct.
close that.
That's correct.
Good. Michael, Jessica, anything?
Mingle with Mrs. Mitchell, so I was able to see the piano and Dish Nestle that donated, just visiting schools, taking a look at hunting,
Okay.
looking at some of the wines here.
We are beginning, I think we've started reaching agreement of the negotiation schedule with the DCTA. So we'll be starting that process, I think, within the next couple of weeks. We're going to agree on principle to interest-based bargaining between the two groups, and so we're going to talk about that at our first session. So that will be upcoming. Go on.
Just on the land swap conversation, I went to the Save Our Green, Say No to Shodine group last Tuesday night. It was just great hearing a bunch of just people from the public just expressing their opinion on what needs to be done. I hope all of you realize what happened here. Hope all of you realize that you have got a school board that is very concerned about our budget and very concerned about our green space and very concerned about our community. So we're always willing to listen and have that feedback. I love the board I work with, and I think they're all highly professional, very respectful people that always want to do the right thing. So I just want to say I appreciate all the voices that you guys had expressing your concerns about a decision that was brought before us. So thank you.
Okay. We're going to go on to the non-business consent agenda. It's been recommended that the Board of Education approve. We're going to come back to you, Tamara, okay? Let the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through B.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. We're going to do roll call, and we will start with Vicki. I'll keep track. Okay? Michael?
Yes.
Tom? Yes. Tracy?
Yes.
Nina?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jessica?
Abstain.
Abstain. Cohen? Your vote on the non-business consent agenda? Yes. Yes. Good. That passes. Getting closer, we'll wait for Tamara's presentation. Thank you.
Nobody else had this problem. Last time,
It won't close.
I don't do anything. That's what it goes. Close it.
Cohen said hit refresh. The little arrow, that little round arrow. Like that.
That's why I come on with a half hour early.
I caught 2 trains tonight.
Oh, nice.
No, I wasn't being critical.
At least the Bethany Road Bridge is open.
Yes.
That's safe.
Yeah, there was an accident over there.
I'm not.
Ambulance.
For those of you who don't know Tamara, she's our new high school principal. She came here and started with us this past summer. So Tamara, the floor is yours.
Okay, the reason I'm here is because the district, through the district improvement plan, one of their top priorities was to analyze and critically, to review and critically analyze the bell schedule at the middle and the high school level. So I spent the last 3 months looking at it, being new. I'm going to stand over here. I feel kind of being new in the building. It was a new schedule, a new building, just trying to figure out what I was reviewing and analyzing. And what I did is I collected data on several things, just to get a sense of the bell schedule that has been in place for the past year and a half, and look at it compared to the 8-period bell schedule that used to be in place. So the next screen shows the current bell schedule. Current bell schedule, and you know what, I have to almost, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to kind of point out over there so people could, sorry. This, if you see the 4th period lunch, that a person with 4th period lunch would take a 5, 6 class, a 7, 8, 9, 10. They could not take a class that was 4, 5. So any class that's offered during 4, 5, and there's 30 to 40 classes offered per period, they could not take that class. They also could not take a 6, 7 class because of the way it's scheduled. And again, there could be 30 to 40 classes offered during that period. And then, again, they could not take the 8, 9 class. So there was 3 of the blocks.
So you're referring there to student C?
I'm referring to student A right now.
Okay.
Student A, there's 3 blocks within the schedule that they have conflicts. And within each of those blocks, there's 30 to 40 classes offered during that time. So I did notice over the summer that I did receive a lot of phone calls about conflicts. We worked with student schedules. There was a lot going on with that. So I knew there was something. So when I got the directive from the district to review and critically analyze the schedule, I had a sense of why they were asking to do that. So student B, it's the same thing. If they have a 6-period lunch, you get the drift of what happens. So there's always going to be 3 blocks that they cannot schedule class in. So that was one thing that I found out. You want to go to the next one, Bill? The next thing is the study halls. So students request study halls, and after all the conflicts, the study halls that were scheduled compared to the study halls that were requested had increased quite a bit. So that was a concern, that why do we have so many students scheduled for study hall compared to how many we have requesting study hall.
And that's directly related to the class schedule? The restriction on classes they could take?
That does cause them to take a study hall, yes.
Okay.
I believe in every schedule there's conflicts, and the kids will take study halls, but these numbers are high, and last year's numbers were even higher. This is this year's numbers, and then the next one was, last year's were really high. So the fact that we have so many kids taking study halls that didn't request it, I think have to do with the conflicts in the schedule. Some of it, not all of it. The next slide. Now, I realize that that was a no-brainer, that it's affecting conflicts and it's affecting the kids' schedules. I realized that after talking to Val, who does our scheduling, and the guidance counselors, it's also affecting the balancing of classes. I don't have those specific numbers. I quoted a number to the staff that was a little off. I think it was the wrong class that I was referring to. But the balancing of classes, we have some classes that might have 20 kids and another class that might have 32, 34 kids. And we can balance better if we didn't have, I mean, that does cause that conflict with balancing. So those 3 pieces of the puzzle, you would think it's a no-brainer that we go back to the 8-period schedule. However, there was another piece of the puzzle, which was the flex, the use of flex. So what I did is I had the PE teachers survey the students during PE. So just about every student was surveyed about their flex usage, and this was right at around the end of the first quarter. So what we found out was the seniors, seniors, it's interesting because they don't have a flex room. They actually have like a commons time, so they have free time during flex. So that's why you'll notice the seniors use flex less often. But we did find out that approximately 25% of all of our kids, right around there, that's the ballpark, are using flex 2, 3, or 4 times a week. So that's a good thing. That's 400 kids. So we knew that there's things happening in flex that are benefiting kids. All kids, well, not all kids, but some kids. So then we went on to say the content areas, well, math, as you could figure, is the biggest area where students seek assistance. And then humanities was the second highest. So that gave you an idea of what areas the kids were seeking help. Most of them went to their current teachers, which was another benefit of Flex. So you can see where I'm in a place where I'm reviewing and analyzing the schedule and trying to weigh out what's more important, is the conflicts and things that are happening with the students' schedules or the resource they're getting during Flex, because they both affect the students. So this was who they sought it out from. The next one was for behavioral support, which you would figure they get most of it from their counselors. Some went to their current teachers. And you know, I put this together just to get as much information as I could, but the next couple slides talks about GPA, and after I did it, I don't know if a lot of students know their GPA, so this is probably a little skewed, so I don't know how closely we really want to look at the GPA piece of it. But again, it boils down to...
Yeah, I do have a question on GPA. It only
Sure.
goes up to 2.0. Did we leave off the...
Well, we were trying to find out how many of the kids that really needed the resource were getting the resource. I mean, yes, kids above 2.0 need it, but the RTI model, when you look at tiered students, the tiered students that fall below 2.0 would be considered a tier 2 student on the RTI model. So when we put this survey together, we were looking at it for RTI purposes to see how much support our tier 2 kids were getting. And students that fall below a 2.0 or are failing classes would fall in either the tier 2 or the tier 3.
Justin, you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick, so are you saying that this data here is not conclusive of everyone? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is I probably should have just showed you the first grouping of them, because now we're getting into the GPA, and the GPA, the students, not all students know what their GPA is, so you get a lot of them that say don't know, they don't know their GPA. That was probably the biggest one. I would say the first two slides, if you go backwards, Val.
Yeah, it's everyone.
Keep going.
That's all I just need to know. It's like everyone.
This is everyone right
Okay.
here. This is the biggest, this is what really gave us a lot of information here. I just wanted to get more information as long as I was surveying the kids. But this tells us how often students are using Flex. And 75%, right around 75% of the students are using Flex 0 or 1 time. 25% of them are using it 2, 3, or 4 times. So
Yeah, and I understood, this is last year's data, or this is this year's?
this is this year's first quarter.
Okay.
So now we have to go back to critically analyzing. So if you want to move forward on the...
Tamara, I'm sorry.
That's
One
all right.
last question. I'm wondering what's going on in junior math. I mean, given the historical freshman math performance, and I know huge strides this year, much improvement. What's going on in junior year math that leads to this sort of, 60% of them that use Flex?
This is of the kids that have used Flex. This isn't, okay, let me explain this. The first graph was the percent of kids that were using Flex. So of the 25% of kids that use Flex, that's the percentage that go for math.
Okay.
So that's not 45% juniors use it. That's 45% of the 25%
Gotcha.
are using it.
And actually, it's hard to figure out, but if you look at some juniors that use it once, twice, 3 or 4 times a week, we're actually talking 40 to 50%. Because it's 25% use it once. But we don't know, so 25% use it once, and obviously it'd have to be those that use it 2, yeah, I got you, I got you.
75% use it 0 or 1 time.
Yep.
And then if you add 2, 3, and 4, it's 25%. It's 25%.
Yep, I got you.
75%.
So it's a percentage of the multiple users week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
So now I want to know, can we reduce the conflicts and continue to offer academic support for our students? I truly believe the kids are getting academic support through Flex. So what we want to do is look at an 8-period day and build in a period during the lunch periods for them to get resource. It wouldn't necessarily mean it would be with their own teacher. That would be the difference from Flex. Right now with Flex, they can get assistance from their own teachers. In an 8-period day, the resource would come from a math lab, a writing lab, and the freshman group, which we heard from, they really like the fact that they get to meet with all their students during Flex. We would build in 2 lunch periods that would just be freshmen, and half their period would be study hall, half their period would be lunch, and then they would alternate. So their teachers would have access to every one of their kids during that 2-period time, and then the teacher would eat lunch in between. So they would have study hall, the student would have study hall, lunch, and then they'd go to their next class. The other half of the freshmen would have lunch, study hall. So the teacher would have their supervision split in half. So 4A would be their supervision, and 5B would be their supervision. And then 4B and 5A would be their time to go eat lunch. So they would have access to the freshman teachers. I'm trying to build something in the schedule of what was working with Flex, because I truly believe there's some good stuff with Flex. And it was just trying to outweigh what is in the best interest of the students, what is affecting the students the most in either a positive way or a negative way. And I'm really concerned about the conflicts for the students. We have kids that go to EMSA, and when they get back, they can't take classes because it's just that broken period. It's been messy. So my recommendation would be to go back to an 8-period schedule and build resources within the 8-period day. The math lab, I think, is real important. From what I've heard, DHS had a math lab prior to Flex, and it was utilized quite a bit. I've heard math teachers ask this to say they would like to see the math lab come back. And we would like to put a writing lab as well. So when we come back to the FFE request, you'll see that there's some requests for a writing lab, for us to put a writing lab in place. So that's what I'm proposing.
Couple of them, a lot of stuff's going through my mind.
I know, that's how I felt.
Can you define what you call a math lab or a writing lab, and how many teachers, because obviously there's a lot of kids that are going to math,
Yep.
a lot of kids going to science. Define how that's going to work.
And the interesting thing is, I was talking to a math teacher today because we were discussing the Flex, because I brought it to the staff yesterday at the faculty meeting. And I mean, we've been talking about it for 3 months, but I brought this PowerPoint so they could see what I was talking about, and that this is a result of this district improvement plan that led to this analyzing of the schedules because of some concerns. So this math teacher said, it's inconsistent. I don't always have kids coming to see me, but I happen to have about 14 kids come and see me. But by the time I got done working with the one kid, I couldn't get to the other kids. So we're going to run into probably the same issue in a math lab, because the teacher would be in a lab, in an area to work with students, have calculators ready. And what I'm suggesting is to put peer tutors in there with them. So maybe if it's National Honor Society kids, and that's good for kids too. That's really good for the peer tutors. I investigated a peer tutoring program at Niles, which was phenomenal. And not only did the kids getting tutoring benefit, but the kids that were tutoring probably benefited even more. So I would like to see some peer tutors put in the writing and the math lab. But, and the writing lab, Mr. Vest had suggested one of the rooms we have right off the English, the humanities wing, and that we could have one of the laptop cart, a small laptop cart, so the kids could come down and that would be a supervision. Teachers have a supervision throughout the day, and their supervision is, right now, they either have flex period, and they have lunch period that they supervise. Well, we would take some of the teachers and put them in the writing lab, put them in the math lab. Maybe if we can get into something with science as well. It just depends on how much manpower we have to man those learning centers, I guess you could call them.
How many minutes are in the existing flex period?
23, the 24.
How many minutes are in lunch?
And on the 8 period day?
No, in our current schedule.
26.
So we have a total of 50 minutes in the full schedule. How many minutes are going to be in?
48. What's happening during flex right now, the students are in a flex study hall. So they're in their flex, and then if they have a little flex pass, they could choose to flex out because they got a flex pass from their teacher. And then they'll go visit their teacher to get some work done, to get caught up on work. But in the meantime, the other kids sit in flex and hopefully do work. Some of them do, some of them don't. And the teachers, part of their supervision is either they wait for kids to come and flex out to them, or they have a flex study hall. They alternate. So you probably see some of the same stuff. I doubt it with the math lab. I think people would go to the math lab all the time. But you could see people in flex that if they don't have students coming to see them, they're just waiting for students to come and get resource from them.
Tamara, you said you presented this to your staff, faculty. What was their response?
You know what? There seems to be a real mix. And I have some staff here that can, I mean, I have people that feel real strongly about flex. The freshman experience feels very strongly about flex. And that's why we want to build around the freshman experience. I have other departments and other people stating that they see that there's people that are in their flex rooms and they're really not giving support to students. I think it depends on your content area. Content area is huge. Math and humanities are using it a lot. But then we have all these other departments using that flex time waiting for kids to flex out when we could be...
Could you explain to the board though one more time about why you're recommending this? I don't think it's real clear. By recommending this schedule, what does that create for students? What options do that create for students that did not exist before?
Now they could take, they have more options with their class course selection. That's the biggest
Like
thing.
an example would be.
Val, she's our master scheduler, and she has dealt with quite a few, I can't see her back there. Oh, there you are. Okay. Give us some examples of the conflicts that have been happening over the last 2 years that.
Sure. The problem that we have right now with the current schedule is we have overlapping classes. So a student that's in 4 or 5 may really want to take a class that's 5, 6, and they're locked out. They can take one or the other. And then it locks them into a track. So once they get one class that drives what lunch period they get, they're locked out of other classes. And there's no way that counselors can move them into those classes. The other problem that we have is a good problem. We have, on last year's schedule, we had 155 singleton courses. That's courses that are offered only one period for the day. And you have 155 singleton courses and you have a 7-period day. If you do the math, you have about 22 or so classes that are offered, only once per day in every period. So kids have to pick and choose which class they want to go to. On top of that, then, when you start layering the classes one after the next, it limits their choices as to which classes they can take. Going to a straight 8-period day is just easier for balancing classes. For kids, they can just take classes. If a 4th-hour lunch doesn't work for them, they can take a 5th-hour lunch or a 6th-hour lunch or a 7th-hour lunch and get the classes that they want. And they still have to pick and choose because we do offer such a wide variety of courses to our students.
And something else that's going to happen is we're adding 3 more levels of math this year. So that's going to even expand the conflicts. It's that scattered schedule. It's very difficult.
Tracy?
Well, just to comment more than anything, but as the father of a freshman, I know he has utilized flex very beneficially. And at the parent-teacher conferences, without any solicitation or comment from me, to the teacher, say perhaps the Spanish teacher, they all commented how much they like flex for freshmen.
And the freshmen, we would have to build it in the schedule for freshmen. That's where, let me show you real quick what the plan is for freshmen.
I think I followed it, but I also thought I followed that first graph, so.
Yeah, so 5, no, but for now, that 5, 6 would be the periods for freshmen. 5, 6 would be our freshman period. So we could still allow flex.
And one more thing with our current schedule. In an 8-period day, I have an equal number of classes often every period. In our current schedule, our 12-period day, because teachers now all have to take their duty and their lunch during the lunch hours, I can't offer the same number of classes every period. So in my outside classes, the periods before and after lunch, I have more classes available to kids than I have in the middle of the day. I cannot, because of the teacher's schedule, and it's not putting the blame on the teachers at all, just the way that it works in this model, I don't have enough courses to offer. And that's another reason that we have to offer more study halls during the middle of the day, because I can't get any teachers to teach because they have to have a duty period and a full period lunch. So out of our 4 possibilities, 2 of those, they are not teaching. And so in an 8-period day, I can spread those duty periods equally between all 8 periods and their lunch periods and their planning periods and have a better balanced schedule.
Jessica, you had your hand up.
I have a few questions, and I'm going to pull it to a different perspective because I know we're talking about scheduling. However, if I'm looking at the data, I'm also concerned about the fine tuning as far as looking at those tier 2 interventions and how are we effectively doing that, because it looks like from the data, only based on what I've seen, yes, we're not catching everyone. So is it the way we implement or how we collected the data, or are students not really utilizing the services are the questions? Because if a student's going to the library, they only use that help for 26 minutes. That's not a lot of time as it is. But are we collecting that data? Because that's great if they're going to the library. I guess I'm looking more for effective use of the flex. And it sounds like it needs some more fine tuning, because the things you talked about, we were on the board and those were our concerns as it was. It's such as that's not a lot of time. If they're all going to math, who's going to help support that? So I guess I would like to see even just more data on the flex.
And you know what, Jessica, that was part of the concern, is that are we targeting the students that really need to be targeted, and how are we monitoring it? And the way the flex is set up right now, the answer is no. One of the suggestions is a guided study hall within this 8-period day, where you could put 10 students twice a week, and then whoever supervises that study hall, if they choose, they would have a choice if they wanted to do the guided study hall or lunch supervision. And the guided study hall, they would have 10 students twice a week, so they could reach 20 students to 30 students. And then they would monitor their grades, send them to the lab when they need to go to the math lab, send them to the writing. So it's kind of like a resource study hall in special ed, but this would be for general ed. That would be a tier 2 intervention, and it would be monitored. That would be something different. But it all depends on the manpower of how we use supervision of our teachers. And I'm sorry, I'm like I know I'm presenting the benefits of flex, because there are benefits of flex. I just don't think they outweigh what's happening with the 12-period schedule.
I have a procedural question. This is for the board that was here before that approved the flex. That was approved by the board? Yes. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. So, Michael, you had your hand up.
Is this driven, your request to change this driven more because of the conflicts, or is it driven more because of the lack of use of flex?
The investigation was originally driven from a priority task from the district to ask me to take a look at it. So when I took a look at it, I didn't just look at the conflicts and what was happening with balancing of classes. I wanted to look at the use of flex. So that's why I incorporated all that information as part of the investigation. So I don't know if that answers your question.
When we first approved Flex, I was very critical of it. I felt it was going to be a glorified study hall. I've seen my own children use Flex. Of course, Mrs. Beatmeyer can attest that we've asked her to force my son into going to Flex.
Freshmen, right? Both freshmen. Freshmen are using it, yeah.
And he's actually mentioned that it's done a world of good for him. So I'm trying to weigh what I originally thought versus what I'm seeing from my own personal experience. If it's utilized at a higher rate, requiring kids to go to Flex, having the teacher force them, here's the Flex pass. I need you in here at Flex.
But they're not forcing them, they're still giving them the option.
But I'm saying, maybe we change the way we look at it
Yeah.
and the way we administer it so that we give the teachers the option to do that. So that the kid that has got the 1.0 GPA that's not showing up to any of the Flex assistance that really, really needs the help is then required to go get that help.
That's the piece that's missing. I think the kids, there are kids utilizing Flex. The kids that are utilizing Flex are not our tier 2. I don't know.
Oh, it's a combination.
It's a combination.
Oh, absolutely. You have honors kids, you have special ed that I support. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
It's a wide variety. It's the AP kids in science. Science is majority AP, but we get a lot of kids that wouldn't be passing if they didn't come to Flex.
So back to my original thing I made and I have articulated, well, it sounds like the chicken is coming before the egg. I think that if we can fine tune this to a mandatory thing, thank goodness I don't have a high school student. But sixth grade is sixth grade is hard, and I forced them to go to after school study club. I forced it because he needed those support. He's still a child. His frontal lobe has not matured yet. He can't handle that decision. So I guess if we could fine tune this first before we talk about scheduling, because after we fine tune it, we might say, hey, that's not the best option. There's a different option, is what I was trying to articulate earlier.
Well, I think we're all basing it off of our own kids' experience. I mean, and that's why we asked for some data to make decisions off data. Because if I went off what my son said as a senior, he didn't use it. I mean, he's part of the 50%, you know. So, so I think we've got to look at the bigger picture here. So my question, I guess, to the board, this would be an action item. I don't think that we're ready to make a decision. It was brought as an information item tonight, but it would be brought to the next meeting. I think that, is there additional information that you would like to see prior to at the next meeting? Because we do have a timeline if we did make a change.
We do have a timeline because we have to start building the master schedule.
And what is the drop dead date?
Probably next.
Well, if
Don't say today.
If we changed it from the 12 period to the 8 period, it's a lot more work to start rebuilding it.
Correct.
So it would have to be done fairly quickly.
For more information, and it was mentioned briefly before, I really would like to know how the staff feels about that. I would like numbers.
Okay.
How many staff support going back to the 8 period, staying with the flex. I think we need to have that information.
And could you also challenge your staff to do what Jessica and Michael suggested about encouraging, almost making it mandatory, or somehow increasing participation? Do they have ideas on how we could do that? And maybe could those be brought forth before we make the decision?
Okay.
Is that fair?
And I actually embrace your questions and your support, because coming into this is trying to figure out what's in the best interest of kids, and my motive is I want to do what's best for the kids. So it's like, yeah.
Mike?
We've worked at this high school schedule since I've sat on the board, and the one thing we really haven't tried is a longer school day, and we're in an opportune time with negotiations coming around that we would have less of this frustration. Certainly we would serve our students better if there was a longer school day, not just at high school, but at all of our other buildings. And to touch on your point for class size.
Mike, we're not negotiating here at the board.
No.
Okay, I want to make that very clear.
But also to the point, this is Yeah, no, seriously.
I'm serious.
The class size too, the other point brought up earlier is, again, we all have to look at, moving forward, how do we best serve our students? And these are two great topics to spend a lot of time with.
Okay, so I will do a survey of the staff, and I will talk to our building leadership team about how do we monitor the level of student, an RTI level of student, a tiered student, how they're utilizing flex.
We have one more question I'd like to know from the students, especially the juniors and seniors, to know we got a great opportunity here to ask the juniors and seniors what they think about flex, and I specifically feel the juniors and seniors because I would like feedback again on how they felt their opportunity was to schedule classes that they needed versus with the flex schedule. I think it's a critical point here that with the Common Core coming up, that our students have to have the opportunity to have flexibility in their schedule. And I'd like to know and ask the juniors and seniors what they feel about the flex versus that. And then you can also ask the freshmen, too, how, and obviously it's had more of an impact on them. But I think the juniors and seniors have had a chance to experience both. And what provided them the most flexibility and options to explore courses in our school district.
I'm sorry I didn't
One
bring
more
you more
question.
information tonight.
That's all right. That's all right.
One last quick question, just so I'm clear on what I heard when you said if we go to the 8-period schedule, you would or could have peer tutoring available?
Well, I would like to get peer tutoring into our school. That would be a goal. We haven't gotten there with our school improvement plan. I'm hoping that at some point, because the Rising Star drives the school improvement plan, that we'll get to, because the peer tutors are a great way to support other students.
Okay. Tamara, thank you.
Thank you.
And I know it's not an easy topic, but let's see if we can gather some more information and
Okay.
we'll tackle it again next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. People cold now? Some people, one board member saying she's freezing. I think she's under the only vent in the room.
Oh, no, there's one here too.
Okay, 2 board members. Okay, so we'll turn it up a couple of inches. Okay.
It's kind of funny.
It was 78. It was 78.
It was warm.
It was very warm.
Not like I was at my parents' house at Christmas. With a sweater on.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move into the business and finance part. We have approval of disposal of surplus equipment. Tammy, you brought this before the board previously. You want to add any comments?
Not really, there's nothing added to this unless there's questions from the board.
I do have one question. You would take this out to bids?
Yes, we would have sealed bids to potentially sell these.
I think Cohen brought up at one of the meetings, and are we required by school code to do it that way, or could we put it on, could we try the eBay route? Maybe get more money for it?
Our current policy and procedure is to go through a bidding process, a closed bid process. So as things stand today, I would say no, we don't have that flexibility. If we wanted to delay selling these pieces of equipment, we could look at expanding our procedures to do that and see what the options are. I have heard through sources, other school district sources, that some districts throw it on Craigslist, they put it on eBay, all kinds of other options. I have not gone down those avenues and looked to expand our procedures at this point.
Cohen, I think you better be the one that brought the topic before. What's the board feel? Do you want to take action on this, or would you want to look at changing the procedures and doing it a different route, thinking we could get some more funds?
Well, I think if Tammy thinks there's an opportunity possibly to gain more revenue by going the online route, then I'm all about getting more money.
Mike?
Yeah, I'd support to amend our policy to allow as such.
Jessica?
Would, however, I was looking at school law. Is there a lot of red tape to go with that as far as selling off?
That's why we do have to examine what the code would allow us to, because it may take 2
board meetings to change the policy before you can move forward.
And I guess how much time does that take, resources of the district and contracting out the attorney to find all that out? I mean, is it a relatively easy thing for you to research and determine what our actions would be, or is that a great difficulty?
I don't think it's great.
We're not using the equipment right now, correct?
No, there's no problem with delaying this. It's just sitting, none of it is being used at this point. It was just a matter of, let's just get rid of it and get it off the books since we've already approved buying a new boom truck and the other ones are not being utilized.
Well, if it pleases the board, why don't we have Tammy, don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but research how we could update our, the code that would allow us to do one of either. Okay? Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
And if it's going to take a ton of time and attorney fees, don't.
I'll look into it and I come back to the next meeting with an update, at least, and if not, an update recommendation for changes to our current procedure and policy.
Well, it's not only with this, but it's everything else that comes
Future.
along.
I think it's something we'd want to do anyway, so. Okay, Tammy, you have an informational item here tonight, bid on roof repairs.
Yes, we have specific dollars that are set aside for life safety projects, and there are only specific types of projects that can be utilized for life safety. And one of those is roof repairs, and we've done roof surveys over the 4 years I've been here, and I'm sure many years before that, but have not put a lot of time and money into projects to do roof and technically it's roof replacements. And our roofs are showing their wear, especially at Huntley and at Founders right now. And we need to get into a rotation every summer of tackling certain areas of our roofs. If we're going to keep up on them so that we're not putting the money into constantly calling out a local roofing company to fix leaks or dealing with the problems that the leaks create and damage that the leaks create. We do have $270,000 currently in life safety for this fiscal year, and we will have $500,000 in their next fiscal year. Being that $870,000, what I'm proposing is that we go out to bid for a 48,200 square feet at Huntley Middle School, which we're estimating will come in approximately $580,000, which is well under our $870,000 potentially that we have, $770,000 we have for next summer. Yeah, 770 for next summer, but we also have to consider architect and contingency fees into that. At the same time we bid that, I'm recommending that we go out as an alternate bid at the same time to do 18,700 square feet of repairs at Founders Elementary that is in need of repair. That potentially could come in at $224,000. With those two put together, well, it exceeds the 770, but I always like to have the alternate project kind of in our back pocket just in case the bids come in low enough that we can look at it and say, okay, let's move forward with both of these projects. Money needs to be kicked in from the O&M budget, but if we can get it at a good price to manage two projects within the same summer, I'd recommend moving forward with that.
Questions?
Do you know how much money we spent on roof repair for those buildings in the last 5 years or so?
I don't have that number handy, I'm sorry, did not bring it with. We use a local contractor, Standard Roofing, for the majority of it. Fortunately, some of the repairs have ended up being insurance claims because of the damage it did create in those areas. So the dollars have been significant, and based on the roof surveys, some of these roofs are well beyond the recommended time frame for replacement throughout our older buildings. So I'm recommending each summer we get into a routine of using potentially life safety, if not O&M money, to continue on a rotation of doing roof replacements every summer until we get ourselves what I consider to be closer to caught up on the upkeep.
I'd always love to know the cost that Michael's talking about, just from a stopping the bleed standpoint.
Sure.
It just helps make a better decision.
Absolutely. And I can have that information.
We're still going to spend $200,000 a year in repairs, and man, it's a no-brainer decision.
Absolutely. And I can pull that again. We use one contractor locally at this point for that. I can't say much beyond the last couple of years. I'll have to do some more research to see who we've used for a 5-year time frame, just because I don't have the personal history in that.
You made reference to the amount of money that's in the budget for this next year. We haven't approved that, correct?
As far as for the
Life safety?
No, you haven't approved it on what to be spent for. It'll be levied in that,
Okay.
for that dollar amount.
Thank you.
And that is a restricted fund that you can only use for certain purposes.
And I assume this is the highest priority in your mind?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had many meetings with the architects to look at the options out there, what is qualified for life safety funds. And we are honestly very behind on getting these roofs replaced and getting onto a rotation to get these done. So at that point, this is probably our best cost-effective way to use these funds in a large project scope.
One other question that I had, and Andrea, we talked about it a little bit this afternoon. There's still some contingency funds, not contingency, but there's still funds left from the referendum for Huntley Middle School.
Correct.
What's that amount?
About 200.
We're just over $210,000 is available at Huntley Middle School. We have zeroed out founders after doing the blacktopping project.
But Michael and Tracy, I hear there's other talks going on with FAC on how to use those funds. That's what you said, Andrea?
Correct.
Okay.
There's air conditioning we had talked about, and would it be most appropriate to use those dollars just to finish that building?
Okay. Other questions? Jessica?
I remember when Don Biggs was here, he had a list of everything that needed to be done. As far as, have we pulled out like the things that are life and safety, I guess, warranted and done a strategic plan on those?
That is something that Andrea and I are working on now, is to review all of the potential projects that need to be handled, not just life safety, but also there's a small amount in the security budget that potentially could be used, determining what should be O&M, as well as once we find out from FFAC how much is being budgeted for O&M projects out of the construction grant, being ready to say, okay, these are the projects and these are the potential dollar amounts that need to be spent throughout the district. So that is a process we're working on, and I'm using that report that was presented several years back, as well as the architect is doing some updates to that report to make sure that we have current numbers in hand.
Anything else? Okay, bring this back next meeting. Okay. Tammy, you're still up. Facility rental program.
The facility rental program is a pretty complex program, and it is, over the past 4 years that I've been here, it's only gotten more and more complex, especially with the addition of the new high school. What I presented to the board today for informational reasons is several things. One is we're looking to expand the guidelines just to kind of narrow down what should and shouldn't be done in our district buildings. And we have found over the last year some things that we felt need to get more outright in the hands of the renters to say these are the do's and don'ts of using our buildings. So there are some things added to the guidelines that are included there, nothing very significant. Yeah, next was the fees. As we've lived in the high school for a year, and now that we have basically 3 middle school sized buildings that are in high demand by renters, we have found the need to have, majority of the expansion has to do with additional staffing requirements should an outside group want to use our facilities, and minimum requirements. For example, if there is an event that is anticipating having 1,500 attendees at the event, they're required to pay for a security staff person for every 500 estimated, as well as a site manager to be in charge of the event while it's going on for every 1,000 people that potentially is estimated to come into the building. We've learned over the past year of living in the high school where the pitfalls have been when we've kind of scrambled at the last minute to make sure we have adequate staffing at those buildings. So the fees I've put in here, some changes which would require these groups to pay for that level of staffing to make sure our buildings are controlled, they're used properly, the rules are followed, and we don't have problems arise on a Saturday at 2 o'clock and nobody's around to deal with it. I also included a couple of spreadsheets in there that talk about who we rented to, what categories they fall into in regards to, are they not-for-profit, what do they get charged, when do they get charged, and what total fees have been collected over the last 2 years for facility rental fees, staffing fees, equipment fees, and then what portion of those fees have been waived for various reasons. As this has grown exponentially in the past year. The main portion of my recommendation comes down to twofold. I'm recommending that we hire a part-time staff member to manage this. Currently, it's managed in our department primarily by me, and this is taking up anywhere from 10 to 20 hours of my time, depending on the week. I have a 40-hour job, 40-plus hour job, so to put another 10 to 20 into a project like this or a job like this, I'm managing it outside of the hours, and something has to change with this. We knew this was going to happen. My assistant does help me a great deal, but there's so many pieces to this from a standpoint of scheduling, security assistant, site managers, making sure we have the parking figured out, and all of those things that go into this, as well as do we have the time in the schedule? Is it approved properly? Our estimated invoices, collecting of payments, insurance requirements. This goes, it's not a matter of walking up to a calendar and, okay, I want this time slot and writing my name on a calendar because I want that gym. It's so much further than that if we're going to protect the district and its assets. My recommendation is to hire a part-time person that could potentially work 3 days a week, 4 hours a day. That person would also be in charge of interviewing and hiring site managers and security assistants. Now, before everybody freaks out and thinks I'm looking at all kinds of staff, this is only that current district people who we already do hire for large events, but I would like to have a core group of people that are hired specifically to be site managers and a core group of people that are district employees that are hired to be security staff during outside events. Paying them X amount of hours while they work an outside group, and those costs being passed on to the renter. The pitfalls we run into is we do have people work security, but it's just a email out who wants to do it. And then anybody can sign up, and anybody sitting in front of me as I'm trying to talk them through their responsibilities, and they may or may not have the right personality to be a security person, to be able to walk up to somebody and say, you need to stop smoking on school grounds, please put out your cigarette. I've had people look at me and say, well, I'm not going to get in a confrontation with anybody, I'm just going to call the police. They shouldn't be security assistants. That we need them to be able to have those discussions. So I'm just looking for a core group that understand their job responsibilities when they're in those roles and pass those expenses on to the renters. But the person that I'm recommending we hire for the coordinator position would be in charge of hiring those people, training those people, evaluating are they doing what needs to be done during the event. So really looking at kind of fixing the flow of this, so it's not so much is all 100% on our department's shoulders all the time, but still managed within our department.
Cohen?
So it looks like we actually collected, I actually collected about 80,000 last year, roughly, give or take 10 grand in fees.
Last year we collected 52,000 last fiscal year.
Sorry, Tom.
I'd like the numbers to come out publicly anyway.
Yeah.
We had about 80 groups last year, conservatively. I just tried to count them up real quickly.
There's 96
applications. Fees of 121,500. We charged only 52,000. We waived the remainder, which is about 70,000. This year, the projection is
year to date we have 105 contracts.
105 contracts, 172,000 of projected fees. Fees charged at 57,000. Fees waived over about 80,000. So there's significant, space being donated back to the public here, and in dollars, but those are true costs that you feel like we have built in.
Absolutely. Just when you count facility fees, because the staffing fees are truly to just pay the district back for the extra hours of overtime or security staffing. So when you just look at facility fees, in 2011-12 school year, we collected well over $20,000 in facility fees, just facilities. And I honestly feel that year was kind of a learning curve for us with the new high school. We had many groups for many years that were using our facilities and not paying. And we didn't have a lot of control over that. We really got, in the last few years, gotten our arms around this and explained to those groups, yes, maybe this time we can waive or adjust the fees, but from here on out, these are the potential charges. The invoices I send out, the estimated invoices now do break down and say, this is what it would cost you, this is what it is costing you. So they understand how much is being waived every time if there is anything.
We want to emphasize, we rarely waive the staffing fee. That was one of the biggest issues years ago, is we would have Saturday PTA, and we obviously waive fees for PTA groups, but we can't waive staffing fees. There's significant dollars attached to that for having staff there. So that's been a little bit of a stickler, and we recently put a letter out to all those organizations who serve our youth and really support our school. Obviously, we're never going to charge them for the facility fees, but we can't continue to waive staffing because that's where there are significant dollars, and we just can't do that anymore.
I guess I see it as a community asset. So, as much as we can waive and allow community to advantage of the school, it's fantastic. But when there's cost to staffing, custodial, heat, that's got to be recouped. Looks like we've done a great job of collecting more and projecting more revenue this year than last year. And quite frankly, I'm always so impressed with Tammy. If we can find a way to free up some more of her time to dedicate on the real job rather than event planning, let's say, and contract it out, probably pay for itself on additional fees and gain additional revenue. So I'm completely for it.
That's a good idea. We could potentially put in a portion of any part-time position and spread it out in terms of rental fees, and maybe recoup those dollars.
Mike?
We'd approved a part-time position at the high school to oversee scheduling for the auditorium. So would then those two positions work amongst each other, or would this new person then take over those responsibilities?
The auditorium manager is an important position for the fine arts wing because he is a specialty in the sound equipment, the lights equipment. He provides, anytime someone wants to use the fine arts area, he provides me a spreadsheet of the room rental fees, the staffing fee requirements, the equipment rentals, which then feed into the estimated invoice that includes custodial fees or security fees. It's one piece. So this would be a separate person, but they would still be working with the auditorium manager to ensure that we are charging proper rates for the use of that area. He also works many of our outside events, and his cost is passed along to the renters.
Okay, thank you.
I see the cost on here. Do we just compare that to other school districts? Is that what we do?
Over the years, what we've done is surveyed several other school districts as well as other facilities such as the Farm Bureau, the banquet halls around the area, the college, the NIU, Kishwaukee, the school districts as well. And we just made sure that our fees are in line. We're not way out of the ballpark, but we are also charging fees that are going to cover the potential cost to the district. And I bet we've probably done that survey 2 to 3 times in the last 4 years. Gone back and said, okay, are we in line? And we don't have people that are coming back and saying, wow, your rates are way out of line with another area. If they do, they're typically not DeKalb County groups and residents, and we say, all right, sorry, maybe you should look elsewhere. If they're not part of our community, we're not looking to really bend on those.
Anybody else?
We're talking about the staffing for somebody to do this on a part-time basis. When you contacted the other schools, have you also asked them how they're managing this program?
Many of the schools of our size, school districts in our size, there is a person who specifically half their time up to 100% of their time is devoted to facility rental. That's all they do. It's all they do. And there is a program, a software program we use through the internet called School Dude we use it for our work order process and a preventative maintenance process. There's also a facility rental process which we have purchased, and we're trying to get it implemented, but it's a time factor of designing it from the floor, the ground up, which includes, identifying every single room in the district, what is the cost, who pays what. So Shannon, my assistant, and I are in the process of designing it. Again, it's a time factor, and if this position is approved, they would be 100% responsible for the management of that program.
Based on what Tammy's presented, and I want to compliment you on the details, and the fact that last year you had a supervisor in this position, We did not replace that position as part of administrative cuts. I think you've come back, at least in my opinion, with a very modest and sound position that I think we should be able to get our money back out of. With the consensus of the board, we bring this back for potential action item at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this report was very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Andrea, job reconfiguration benefits coordinator.
Along the same line again, we're looking at, before we just move forward and fill any positions, we have the opportunity as a person will be retiring in our HR department to fill that position. However, we also have a vacated position in the business office of the admin position, of which we've been holding back on hiring that as well. So right now, after a great deal of evaluating where our current staff sits, we would like to attempt to combine these positions, redistribute some of the work that this individual is currently doing to some other folks, and then hire actually a financial analyst instead of calling it a benefits coordinator. That financial analyst would straddle both the HR department as well as the business department and still coordinate the benefit area, but also because the benefit area is a large portion of the budget, that person would also lend actually as an analyst to some of our budget oversight and actually take on some duties as an internal auditor, which we have been looking to expand into that area that is needed into our activity funds and some other areas of which we contract out to review those invoices, as I named in here. And the big ones are food service and transportation, and these bills are pages and pages long that we really need periodically somebody to sit down and test those numbers to make certain that we are paying absolutely what we should be. Right now, Cindy and I currently do that, but as we are all being stretched with these duties, we would like somebody to truly focus on just that area. So we are bringing to you right now, this individual will be retiring until June, but we really feel we need to hire somebody sooner rather than later, so that they would have the opportunity to work in HR and learn the roles and responsibilities of that individual, and then give them the opportunity to come to the business department and work with us and be able to pick up some of the financial pieces that we need that individual to do. So I'm not stating for certain I would never come back and ask for that position that has not been part of the budget reduction of the admin position, but we would like the opportunity to at least attempt to see if we could hire somebody who would really be able to work between both our departments.
Questions?
Comment on the cross-training. I mean, anytime in my business I've had the opportunity to have a decent amount of time to cross-train the new person coming in, man, that's fantastic, so I'm all for it.
Connie, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
You're giving up a full-time employee in your department who's now going to be shared. How comfortable are you with that?
Because that person would also be in charge of benefits as well as what we call position control, would be another part of this financial analyst would do. Probably 2/3 of the retiring person's job would be covered, and we believe that we could pick up the other 1/3 with what we will have on our department.
Dr. Briscoe?
Well, first, when we had the vacated position, I want to thank Andrea in that, because, obviously we needed to make some reductions last year, and I think it was wise considering the budget, but we didn't want to just hire someone. We needed to sit down and look at the whole building. Where are we deficient and where do we need help, and we need different things. So I want to thank you guys for doing that, and I feel like having a financial analyst combined with, which is really seriously part of the benefits person needs to have those skills, is it's a really excellent combination without having to just hire someone else. So I appreciate the thought process that was put into all this, to be honest with you.
Other comments? I think there's consensus to bring this forward as an action item.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks, Connie. All right, new business administration, appraisal, property revenue, high school. Dr. Briscoe.
Yeah, this will be real brief. I mean, one of the issues actually in our joint meeting with the city and park district was the board members from the park district and the city both received a lot of feedback from their constituents about what is really the price of the land by the new high school. Actually, because of the point of the land swap, we know we had the land appraised over there, so it makes sense to do that in a lot of ways as we move forward, one way or the other, is to really know what the property is. So I'm just asking tonight, it can either be brought back for action, or I put down possible action. I'd like to get moving on it if it's possible, to have the land actually appraised so everybody here and the board knows how much it's actually worth as we progress forward one way or the other.
Comments? Mike?
I'll move for action on that motion as important information to make our decision.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Do you have any idea of costs?
I think we're taking action to go out to bid.
I'm just curious if anyone had an idea.
We had the appraisers done,
Yeah, I could get it. I actually, last time I checked with our local banks and they gave me some names of.
wasn't, the whole cost for the appraisal we did on the 3 properties before was, I think it was like 3,000.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about a pretty small amount,
But we'll bring it back for you to see it. It's small enough.
then we'd have to approve the bid
I
next
understand,
week.
right, I was just curious.
So, to go out to bid, moved and seconded, any other discussion? Roll call?
Colin Barnes?
Yes.
Nina Fontana?
Yes.
Michael Lord?
Yes.
Jessica Lyons?
Yes.
Tom Mattia?
Yes.
Mike Burbick?
Yes.
Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes. Human resource, hiring timeline, recruitment plan, procedural changes. Connie?
Thank you. This is just information I wanted to give you an update on the Human Resources Department. As you heard from Andrea a couple of items ago, we are looking at taking the full-time benefit coordinator position and having that position changed. So with other reductions we've had this year, as well as this possible one, we really looked at the way we do business in the HR department. One of the areas that we are going to be changing is how we advertise and when we advertise our open positions within the district. In order to fill positions, the administrators have to provide to the HR department a personnel action request form. Between the months of August and September this year, the HR processed over 100 of those. The reason there are so many is all of the differential positions that the district has are yearly positions. So every year, the CART form or the personnel action request form have to be resubmitted by the administrators. So I met with Dr. Huey, because the majority of the differentials come from the athletic department, and then I also spoke with Tamara Roberter, because some of the non-athletic differentials, the majority come from high school, the rest of them mostly from the middle school. And we have kind of developed a timeline, and that is starting this school year, all of the fall differentials that we know will be available for the next school year were posted on or before December 1st. Dr. Dewey does evaluate everyone within the coaching staff, and during those evaluations, it's determined if they're going to come back or not. You know, some people have said, I'm not coming back, or whatever reason. So we did post all those positions before December 1st. We're going to be able to do the same with the winter and the spring differentials on the dates of April 1st and June 1st, as well as those yearly differentials. All of the clubs at the high school, all of those people have to be rehired on a yearly basis. Now, this will not eliminate those resignations that will get in past these dates, but it will eliminate the staff in the HR department processing over 100 personnel action items. In addition to that, we already know who our retirees are going to be this year. On or before January 15th, we're going to be posting those positions as anticipated, and as well as any positions based on non-renewals, we're going to do that by March 15th. By posting sooner, the goal is that we will be hiring sooner, so that will alleviate this mad rush in August and September to get everybody hired, as well as get all of the paperwork that's required to actually hire somebody so that we can start school with a full staff. In addition to that, we have established a recruitment committee, and we had our first meeting on November 29th. And we, when I presented before about the new staff demographics, we recognized some areas that we needed to address. So this committee met, and we came up with some ideas on how we will, first of all, advertise. Right now, we advertise just through the online application process through the ROE. The committee brainstormed some additional avenues in which to advertise. We talked about the fact that we need to sell DeKalb, not only the district, but the city as well. The committee was fabulous and came up with 3 times what Andrea and I could come up with off the top of our heads on how to sell potential candidates on DeKalb, especially as close as we are to the suburbs. We need to let people know that DeKalb's a place that they want to be. We talked about attendance at job fairs. We talked about the fact that we need to spread a wider net when we look at our staff. Many, myself included, are graduates of NIU. However, we are in competition with the suburbs for those NIU graduates. So we need to grab out, cast a broader net to get more people from other universities interested in DeKalb. Then the last part was, again, just so that we were more efficient, is we have been meeting with Brian Tobin and Ben Bale, our technology department, as well as some outside vendors on how we can utilize the technology that we have within the district easier and better within our hiring process, as well as our salary advancement process. When staff members move on the salary schedule, right now, to get everything in place and all of the data, it's taking 2 to 3 weeks of one person's time to do that. We have discovered that through Skyward and a couple other vendors that we can knock that process down to probably half the time that it'll take the HR department. So just I wanted to update you on where we're at with some changes in the department, and if you have any questions on anything.
This is fairly significant from my perspective, and just so you know that in past practice has been we always, because of our budget, would wait for non-renewals, and that was before class sizes were there. Well, we know when a teacher leaves now, we know in certain circumstances we're going to have to replace that teacher. So the change here is that we have a chance to attract and get the top-notch teachers by beating all the school districts to a punch by posting positions along with the differentials. So we can post for an in-house teaching position along with, for example, an assistant basketball or maybe the head football. And now we can attract folks to our community, and we can go out and recruit them. And so we're very excited about this.
Questions?
Just a comment. I mean, selling DeKalb. Debbie Armstrong at the DeKalb County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Definitely reach out to her. Wired, the documentary. I mean, geez, anyone who watches that would want to be a part of our community.
Within selling the community, we talked about we needed to get partner with Energem, the Park District, churches in the community, the Egyptian Theater, just really advertise all of those events and all those activities and what we have to offer, both for families and singles. That was one thing. It was nice, our committee, we had family people on there and we had single people on there, and they both were able to come up with different ideas on how and what to make sure we focus on when we do that advertising.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Tracy?
Are you going to put together like a package for that, kind of so it's
We
consistent?
first talked about doing like a pamphlet, like a 3-tier, but as we kept going and going, we realized we have a lot more information than necessary. So we talked about not only a packet, but also electronically. We generated some different ideas on how we can get that information out to universities and ask them to provide it to their graduating possible teacher candidates as well. So.
Well, what I'm getting at is once that's completed, I ran into an old friend of mine this morning who's a local realtor and asked that we come talk to the realtors in his office, because I know you did that some time ago.
Right.
But in the course of conversations, they asked, they said, have you seen what's going on in the district? No, we really haven't. So then I share an office with another realty group, or in the same building. I rent from them. And I went to them this afternoon and asked, okay, if we put something together, would your people be interested in seeing this? What I'm asking you for then is, once this is completed, if it's available, I'd like to use it and/or have your people talk to these groups, because it'll be consistent message
Right.
in a number of fronts.
And that's what we were looking for. And like I said, we wanted to contact some of the, the Park District and those type of places, just to make sure that they're okay with us, providing that information as well. We don't want to provide anybody's information that they don't want us to, not that I think they would. But yes, definitely providing it to the realtors and stuff like that.
Well, I think it's applaud what you're doing. We can't legally make people live in DeKalb.
No, we can't. But we want them to want to live in DeKalb.
We can sure do a good job of that, so I applaud you for doing that. That's good. Okay, I'm going to keep you right here.
That's the many of it. I brought this up.
Proposed school calendar for 2013-2014.
Yes, you have attached a copy of a recommendation that came from the DCTA Professional Relations Committee. For the DCTA contract, they make a recommendation to the board. However, the board does have the final decision on what the school calendar will be. Just to give you kind of a background, the committee first met in October and brought together just ideas that they had heard from their colleagues about the school calendar. They created 4 different calendars and then submitted those 4 calendars to the teaching staff. Of the teaching staff, 177 responded to the survey that they put out. And the calendar, which is marked calendar A in your packet, is the one that got the most votes. And that's how they decided to do it as a committee, whichever calendar their colleague recommended to be, Professional Relations Committee recommended the recommendation to bring forward. In this recommendation, Institute Days would be in August 26th and 27th, with the first full day of attendance on the 28th of August. Other significance is the spring break would still be that last week in March. Winter break would start on the 23rd of December, with school resuming on January 6th. We did look at, and this is always a struggle with the calendar, is equaling out the semesters. In this calendar, the first semester would have 85 days, the second semester would have 89, so we looked at what we could change to even those up better. But we also got input from the high school staff that for us to even out the semesters better, we would have to end a semester in the middle of the week. They said doing that is difficult with the exam schedule for both students and staff. In the semester on a Tuesday, Thursday morning, they're all in different classes. So they were more comfortable with ending the semester on a Friday, which is how it is in all of the calendar recommendations that they looked at. So, questions?
This is an information item tonight.
It is.
We'll come back for action.
What I would like, feedback from you, is if you believe that you would approve this at our next meeting, we would also like to bring not only the 13-14 calendar, but also a 14-15 calendar that would follow the same format. Obviously, we would have to move everything by date, but that last full week in August is when we would start for the 14-15 year as well.
Questions? Anybody say anything you don't like? I know something will come up after we approve.
Oh, I'm sure.
What fun to eat Good Friday on.
But everybody take a good look at this, and we will bring it back for approval next meeting.
And is it all right if we also come with a 14-15 calendar, following the same format for approval as well?
Yeah, we may choose not to approve that, but we'll look at it. I don't want to promise anything until we see it.
Okay.
I mean, is that right? That's fair?
You just didn't want to go forward with this type of format if it's something.
No,
this
this looks pretty consistent with what we've done most years, isn't it?
Right. It is.
Look at you guys.
It is consistent.
One thing I noticed is that you are ending on a Monday.
Yes.
In June, which is good, so that just in case there are those
That came up
snow days.
within the committee that, if we ended on a Thursday or a Friday, we notoriously have those snow days, and we have to come back for that Monday anyway. Might as well put it in the calendar so that we have 4 days.
Also, how nice it is when the holidays land on Wednesday.
Yes. There was a
No,
lot of discussion
but
about.
no, it makes it
There was a
easier.
lot of discussion about, just to let you know, about moving institute days. We traditionally have those on Fridays, maybe move those to Wednesday or Thursday. The concern was if we have school off on a Wednesday or a Thursday, the kids will just take that Friday off anyway, or they'll take that Thursday, Friday off anyway. So to try to prevent that from happening, that's why we stayed where they were, because that was a discussion at the committee.
Okay, Connie.
All right, thank you.
All right, Dr. Moeller, curriculum, student services update on our major initiatives.
Thank you. All of these, what I wanted to update you on was the two major goals that affect curriculum. And first one is goal 1 with regard to looking at articulation alignment and instructional practices in K-12, and in particular with regards to mathematics. And the second one with the K-12 vision for teacher and student access to technology. We got a lot of irons in the fire right now, so I just want to give you an update on where we are with those. With the career and college readiness, CMP3, which is one of the recommendations we made, is the middle school mathematics sequence that's aligned to the Common Core state standards. We're looking at, they literally, actually last week the vendors finally came out with the program and what it would entail, and we actually just got a rough bid on it right now. What we don't know about that is all the electronic media that's going with it. What our expectation is moving forward with all curriculum is ideally we want there to be an electronic version of the books that students can access at home, so they don't have to lug books back and forth, as well as additional resource material. So we're working with the vendor on that. We should have a solid number on what that cost will entail. Regarding some of the other recommendations, there's a lot of numbers we have to work out. For example, we talked about the professional development for everyday mathematics at the elementary level. So we're looking at the cost of not only the professional development, but also the cost of substitutes. A couple of consultants will be using for a few days. We also talked about parent involvement. So we've got to work in some numbers to determine what we want to have allocated per pupil for schools to help get parents involved and get them familiarized with the everyday mathematics program. At the middle school, the biggest expense would obviously be the cost of the new Connected Math 3 programs, and also professional development associated with that. And we're trying to do all this within existing budgets. That's primarily out of our supplemental general state aid. But my plan is on the 18th to have this entirely laid out for you as an informational item, so you know exactly what the costs are. Our anticipation is it will have no impact whatsoever, positive or negative on the deficit, because it will come out of supplemental general state aid. We just have to figure out what things we would not be funding to make this a priority. With regards to technology, one of the things, and I know we're not moving along as fast as we'd like to, but the last thing we want to do is come forward and say, hey, let's allocate hundreds of thousands of dollars for this program and roll it out, try to roll it out district-wide without really being able to vet it out. So what we did was we've had a couple of preliminary meetings, and what we're going to do is we're going to be piloting several programs. We've got 2 elementary schools that are going to be piloting different website technologies. And one of them is going to be called Edline, and the other one is Weebly. Weebly, I know what it is. But they're 2 different products. From all our conversations with teachers and our technology people, they're much more user-friendly than SharePoint. And so the idea is if we pilot in a couple of buildings, we can support it with between our technology department, our TOSA for technology, Denise Fleming, and our curriculum department, and really help them get that up and running, make sure it's well advertised so the parents are familiar with it, familiar with how to access information on those websites. And we've got good we're getting good numbers from the vendors just to pilot those for half a year for second semester. And so that's something we plan to move forward with, and we're going to be meeting with the technology committee, which is obviously now a subcommittee of curriculum council. We're meeting on the 17th to sort of finalize these plans. We're also looking at a possible utilization of 1 classroom or possibly 2 classrooms with some type of one-to-one technology, with every student having access to it. That, again, we're trying to do this within the current constraints of the technology and the curriculum department's budgets. And again, the whole point of this is to roll them out on a very limited basis, minimal costs, get feedback, find out if they're going to work long-term, and then ideally, if they turn out to be successful, for example, the website, we would probably roll out the elementary level 1 year and then move it up to the middle and the high school as we move forward. The other thing is, and I included these in the packet for you, we have a couple of initiatives that again, we've gotten very good pricing on for piloting. One is this atomic learning, which we may have questions about, but atomic learning is, either Brian or Denise are here. It is absolutely phenomenal. This is a resource that eventually we can have not only our staff, but our students and our families access. There's a cost for the entire district. Right now we're piloting it with our teachers. And for example, you see all the different topics that are covered on the front page. Now within any of those topics, there are literally hundreds of little lessons, and they're all between 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So for example, let's say I want to learn, become more proficient with Excel. I can literally log in, go to Excel, and say I want to learn how to add another row to an Excel spreadsheet. I do a little search, it comes up with a little 45-second video, it takes me step by step on how to do that. And there are literally thousands and thousands of these. On the back page of the handout is resources for assistive technology, which is used primarily for our special education students and teachers. So the benefit of using atomic learning is not only can we use what they have on there for no additional cost, if we wanted to create our own videos and training, for example, for training purposes, that can be uploaded and that can be accessed by anybody in the district at any time. So somebody could be home on a weekend and access it and do that training. The nice thing about it is, if it's some type of training where everyone's expected to do that, there actually is a log, and so our IT people can know who is logging on when, what they accessed, and what training they went through. So that's another little piece we're trying out. The third thing we're trying to do right now is to help build capacity. I don't know if you remember, but on our first Institute Day, one of the things we had was we had a lot of different technology offerings for people to sign up for. They either familiarize themselves with smartphones, calculators, a lot of other different technological topics. What we're doing now is, and this is, by the way, this is all through our tech, Denise Fleming is one who came up with this idea. We're starting to offer after-school courses for teachers. And they're small sessions, about an hour at a time, on different topics. And this is going to be ongoing. I just included the one, this is our first offering here. But the idea is that we'll continue to do this based on feedback and based on need from our staff. And the whole idea is just to help our faculty build capacity and more technological competence. So we're working on that, and I'll be reporting back to that on a regular basis to let you know how we're moving forward with that. There's one other thing I want to mention. Oh, the other thing, and I know Andrea had talked to Brian about this, and I'm working on it as well, is getting a technology audit done from all the schools. There's a lot of concern about the equity of resources between the schools, and obviously, before we roll anything out district-wide, we'd want to ensure that there's equity across schools. And that's somewhat complicated because, as we know, some schools, their PTA or their PTO has the capacity to buy additional technology from the schools where others don't. So we have to ensure that we've got equitable distribution of resources across the district in terms of hardware and software before we even start considering rolling all these out district-wide. So, but again, the idea is we want to pilot a lot of these different products for a semester, see what type of feedback we get, not only from our staff, but from our students and our families. Because obviously, Another goal besides technology is also the better engagement with our families. And that's really the ultimate goal, that parents can be at home or at the library or anywhere where we have access to public computers and go in and not only check grades, but go to a teacher's website, find out what homework assignments have been assigned, when tests are coming up. Students can come home and say, I forgot my algebra book. Well, you know what, now your algebra book's online, so it can be accessed from the home. So, any questions on that?
Questions, Dr. Mulder? Look, I just have one question or
Yes.
comment, I guess. Especially on the technology side, this kind of goes to the committee, I know the Cohen thing. When you're looking at these pilot projects, let's look at them in scale. If we would go district-wide, student-wide, because a lot of those costs, I think, would have to be tied into some of the things that the finance and facilities is looking at and how we
Yes.
spend our grant money. So
Absolutely.
we need to get that in the formula. And I know we're not approving that, but we need to at least make sure maybe we have something allocated for that. So, you know, it doesn't get spent on all these other things. And, you know, we're doing these pilots and so forth, and we have some things that work, but we don't have tons to do.
Exactly.
So that's why we need to get some type of magnitude for you guys in your committee.
Without a doubt. But before we do that, we want to make sure that
Understand
it's a
that. I
product.
mean, parallel.
Yes. Okay.
Other things for Dr. Muller? Let's get
Did we change from the onset, just change our cut scores? Have we already adjusted for that?
I've got a meeting on Friday. For those of you who may not know, at the Illinois State Board of Education, I think it was last week, Dr. Christopher Cook, our state superintendent of schools, came out and mentioned that, as you all know, we're moving away from ISATs and from the PSA and moving to the park assessments, which are going to be implemented in 2014. It's been long recognized that in terms of the rigor, that the ISATs are not as rigorous as a lot of the other state assessments that they're testing students at a similar grade level. Because of that, the state has decided this year they are going to set the cut score on these exams, meaning the score where students meet or exceed at a much higher level in an effort to get a better sense of where we are going to fall with our scores on the new park assessments. Now, this just came out last week. Dr. Kelly Summers, our assessment coordinator, and I are going to sit down. We talked to Dr. Briscoe. This is a huge communication piece. We've got to get this out to everybody. So we're actually meeting later this week to draft something that can go out to families, all stakeholders in the district. We actually wanted to meet with a couple of the reporters and talk to them through it and let them know what's going on as well. Because obviously the last thing we want is for this big shock to occur when parents, their child's been doing real well and meeting and exceeding, and all of a sudden they find out they're not meeting or exceeding. And it's primarily due to the state arbitrarily saying, we're going to set a much higher cut score for meeting and exceeding. So we'll get something drafted and get that out to everybody. So hopefully that will minimize the shock to everybody when it does occur.
Other questions? Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we're getting to the end here. Recommended revisions to school board policies, second reading and possible approval. It's been recommended a motion be made that the Board of Education hold a second reading and possible approval of recommended revisions to the school board policies as attached.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Nina Fontana?
Yes.
Michael Lord?
Yes.
Jessica Lyons?
Yes.
Tom Mattia?
Yes.
Mike Burbick?
Yes.
Tracy Williams?
Yes.
Cohen Barnes?
Yes.
Motion passes. Approval release of closed session minutes for public inspection. This is an informational item. Action will be taken on that next meeting. We'll move on. Anything for the good of the cause? Items identified to put on future agendas? Jessica?
The YMCA knows that we met a long time ago about the Y
I
and the
think
usage.
it'd be good to have Rob come in again. I agree with that.
Out the cost. And then the second thing is, I know we're kind of I know the agenda's been packed, but we're looking for those school, when the schools come and present their data and their school report card.
Right, I think Doug, we're going to present because we're going to get the winter CDMs back. I think we're planning a presentation
Yes.
on our calendar for updating the board on fall to winter CDMs.
Yes, yeah, that's going to take place in January, February.
We'll talk it later. Yeah. Anything else, Tracy?
Just one quick comment. This goes, I think, Tamara, did she leave?
She did.
Kudos to Tammy and the high school staff. I was able to go to the IMEA orchestra concert a couple weeks ago, Region 8, and I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. But most importantly, they hosted, I believe, well over 400 kids throughout the day. The only complaint I had was the orchestra practice room was too hot or something. But it was spectacular. And that new auditorium out there was absolutely packed with parents, and the stage was packed with musicians, and it was really something. And these were junior high and high school age kids. You would have never known it if you would close your eyes and just listen. But most importantly, the organization and the way that was carried off, that building was absolutely jam-packed that day in every wing. And well done to all of you, because I don't know of another facility that could have handled that many kids doing that many different things all at the same time, to include eating lunch. So well done, Tammy. Well done. Share that with Tamara, because the high school staff was really on top of it, and the music group out there, Travis and Steve and Chris Wild, they were on top of their game. It was really a good day.
Anything else?
Just a reminder that Thursday night, the DeKalb Education Foundation is hosting the wine tasting at Schnucks.
You have the time on that, 5 to...
5 to
7?
Great.
That's $20 a ticket.
10.
Was it 10? I
And the food is what's worth it. They put out a great food for hungry. You can do a little grocery shopping.
I'm sorry, is Tim Vincent still? Tim, for those that don't know, Tim and his staff hosted another fundraiser for our friend Christopher Kennedy.
I saw that on your mantle.
Oh my goodness, they had hoped to get 200 people. They served over 320. It was a huge success, and it was 90% staff and a few parents jumped in as well. Well done, Tim. Well done to Barb, and thanks to the Lutheran Church for allowing us to host it there.
Yeah, we had anticipated hope for 2,000 for the fundraiser. We go to that family, and we're rounding about 4,000 right now.
Very nice. Thanks.
I have one last thing. I know that the possible reconfiguration, I know that FFAC is taking hold of that. However, I also know that people are going out to the PTA meeting, they're getting a lot of emails and things like that. We've already just went through something as far as the spirit of transparency. Is it possible at all just get an update to see where we're at? I know that it might not be completely done, but we can bring that to a board meeting.
I'm hoping we can. Can't we, Mike?
Yeah.
Michael?
Yes, absolutely.
Just a PowerPoint that was used for Tim's presentation, we could probably.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it either.
I haven't
It's
seen it.
So, great.
There's one qualifier there. It's only moving slow because they're even now sending out surveys to staff amongst the buildings, and they've really done a lot of work. So it's been a work in progress. There hasn't been an update yet to show you because they're still collecting information. But gladly bring whatever we have when it's appropriate.
Let's do that. Probably the first meeting of the new year, I'm thinking.
So if we get that after PTA meeting, then everyone else gets it?
We'll get it as soon as you
Well,
guys are ready.
I think we sent out the FFAC information.
It's on
the front of the page of the webpage, but the information that everyone's getting, we sent out those PowerPoints to you, to the board. So I mean, we can send them out again if you
That was what I just thought it'd be nice, like I said, just.
Hopefully
community
get someone
together.
from the committee that can.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Hey, Scott.
Good, how are you? Good, how you guys doing?
I know, thank you, I appreciate it.
Everything.